Hello, all. I hope you are well in these extraordinary times. I would like to welcome you to today's Fintech Finance Virtual Arena where we're hosting you. In this special arena, we're going to be taking a wee look at B North, a new bank looking to, and I quote, deliver an outstanding borrowing experience for SME businesses. Joining me today, I have Jonathan Thompson, founder and CEO. How are you doing today, Jonathan? Do you prefer Jonathan or JT?
Yeah, well, a lot of the team call me JT. I get called all sorts of things. Johnny, Jonathan's fine. Whichever works for you, Ali.
We'll go for Jonathan. I'll play it formal.
You and my mother, that is. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent, excellent. And whereabouts in the world are you at the moment?
So we're, as the name suggests, we're up in the north. So the whole team's based across the north of the UK, north of England to be exact. So I'm in Yorkshire today. Our head office is in Manchester.
I'm originally from the Outer Hebrides, Western Isles. So I see you're from the north as
Yeah, the soft north,
the so.
I should think. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get down to it. First of all, I kind of want to take a step back pre-pandemic, pre-COVID. What was the industry like? What were some of the defining characteristics of the lending industry for businesses?
Yeah, I think if I winding the clock back pre-COVID is a good starting point because obviously, Ali, our business was conceived before the pandemic took hold, long before that. So it's a very relevant sort of a backdrop. And I suppose what we've been seeing in the business finance market in particular is that there was lots of innovation happening around sort of the microfinance agenda. So for a business looking to borrow, say 50, 75, 100K, you could do that probably on an app on your phone and do it very quickly, very efficiently. You'd have the cash in your bank account in a matter of hours, and it would be a purely automated process. But you'd probably pay for that. So that was fine for some SMEs, but actually there is a big market in the UK which has remained, relatively speaking, undisrupted, and that's the market for core debt for probably more established SMEs and scale ups. And these businesses have predominantly been reliant upon the incumbent banks in the UK and some of the earlier stage challengers. And I think over the last 10 years in particular, you've seen a constant process of banks scaling back their frontline teams on the ground and centralizing many of their core functions in a quest for efficiency. And that probably meant that a lot of SME borrowers in the UK were actually being managed via remote call centers. So there's a lot of broken relationships that probably the banks had spent a long time building up, but have really sort of become dislocated over the past 5 or 10 years. I think also in that period, you've seen fund lenders stepping in. They tend to be a bit more responsive, but more expensive at the same time. And I think the final factor I'd throw in is the number of brokers in the UK, which has been increasing significantly since the last global financial crisis. And there's now around 2,000 of those dotted around the UK. And that's a market we're particularly focused on as well.
I was going to say the number of I must refer to them as kind of sort of stopgap lenders over the last few years seem to have increased quite rapidly, and from the very kind of fintechy ones, the likes of like Iwaka, and then on the flip side, you also have some other ones that have been incredibly successful, like little business loans, which is very kind of almost the opposite in terms of tech.
You're absolutely right. And I think those businesses, look, they've tended to focus on a particular part of the market that tends to lend itself to automation and to scorecard driven, so algorithm type lending appraisal. So that's fine for smaller, perhaps shorter term working capital requirements. But there's a large swathe of borrowers in the UK who rely on more core committed debt finance, and that's the market that for us has remained relatively undisrupted certainly from a technology perspective, but also from a business model perspective. Everything looks roughly the same. If you're a business borrowing, I don't know, 500,000, £1 million in the UK, your choice is probably the existing big banks that everyone knows, some of the earlier challengers, and that's probably the extent of it, unless you're going to a fund lender. So it's a market that has remained sort of unchanged and undisrupted, and it's that segment that we're particularly interested in, Ali.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, with that in mind, what led to the creation of B North? Because was there a particular like aha light bulb moment? What's the all companies have their legend of how they were created. What's the story?
Yeah, no, okay. So there's no sort of great sort of eureka moment, but no, my background is in larger banking, so larger scale banking. I've seen the challenges that big incumbents face in serving the SME market in particular. And look, SMEs are the lifeblood of the UK economy, and they tend to get quite a raw deal from banks. And it's a bit of a disservice, effectively, to the UK's entrepreneurs and innovators. The real reason, though, is that banks, particularly large banks, just aren't set up to serve the SME market effectively, particularly lending to more established SMEs. And there's been no technology innovation, as I've mentioned. The banks are operating on very centralized models, and there's been no material investment into that SME sector. Banks look at it and find it quite difficult to serve because they want to reduce cost, because they're getting nibbled at by tech innovators from around their profit pools. But at the same time, SMEs are complex. They grow in an organic way, not in a linear way. So then they don't naturally lend themselves to pure automation. And that's for us, the opportunity is to turn that on its head and really look at what that market craves. And that's led to our hybrid model, which is effectively a technology platform. So cloud native allows us to disrupt and transform the customer experience. But when I say hybrid, we take that and then overlay on it people in the core regions of the UK. So it's a bit old school in terms of having a people front end rather than a technology one. But actually the underpinnings of the business, the core of the business is pure cloud native leading technology. So it's a true hybrid that is designed specifically with the SME lender in mind.
John, I absolutely love that. One of my favourite stories. I don't even know if it's true, but the sentiment behind it I love, which is the most powerful chess playing computer in the world can be beaten by a pretty powerful computer and a team of humans together. I love that kind of almost that Terminator 2 sentiment to it, and having being cloud native and then having that people front end, that marrying those two things together of what machines can't do is 100% the way forward.
Yeah, I agree, Ali. Good to hear. And I think, look, as a business owner, it can be quite a lonely place, but actually relationships are quite important. And there is a whole swathe of this market that doesn't trust or want to just trust its material funding requirements to a lending platform. So for us, for a borrower in particular, they may be pledging security to the bank. So they might be in our keys to the warehouse, a core part of their business makeup. So for them, they want to know who they're borrowing from and what their track record is, and be able to trust them. And face-to-face relationships are a key part of that trust. So that's important. And also, the point you make, Ali, for us, a core part of the lending decision is getting under the skin of the business and actually meeting management. It's management, it's entrepreneurs and innovators are what drive the success of a business and drive its resilience as well. So the opportunity to meet management, understand what makes them tick, is a core part of the lending decision for a bank. So yeah, I accept there'll be certain small scale loans that can be granted on an app or on a platform, but where it's material funding to scale up, then a relationship is absolutely critical, and the management are a key part of unlocking a competitive funding package.
Absolutely, that sounds almost a bit like the way that you're approaching it, that understanding the management, and obviously you are a stakeholder with the business. It's almost a kind of venture capital approach in terms of how you're connecting with people.
Yeah, I think, look, venture capital, private equity is a segment that really sort of leans heavily on management, and there's every reason for that. It's because that's sort of the way management behave when a business goes through a period of stress is a good test. And look, we've gone through a global pandemic. Good quality management teams will have reacted to that. and adapted their business quickly and have a clear plan for the various economic scenarios that lay ahead. And that just doesn't come through when you're lending reliant purely on algorithms for the lending decision. So there is a bit of private equity, there's a mindset, there's a bit of old school bank mindset in that, previously business was done on a handshake, but those relationships were absolutely integral to the underwriting process. And we're bringing a bit of that back in BNorth. So we will use leading edge technology, but technology will always be an enabler. So it will help us to make good decisions, but actually the lending decision itself will always be a human one. And it allows us to give that sort of practical overlay and draw on that sort of real world experience that's really important in this part of the market.
Absolutely. And obviously you guys founded in 2018, and I believe you're on Mambu as your kind of sort of core platform. How has being on Mambu, other platforms are available, enabled you to kind of take that ecosystem model that you think, do you know what, I can plug in X, Y, and Z? Because Mambu have got a pretty phenomenal marketplace, it's got to be said.
Yeah, look, we've got a great relationship. So I think the core part of our platform is Mambu and nCino. And look, you'll say nothing new in that. Those are two globally market-leading platforms: Mambu for core banking and nCino for loan origination capability.
Great IPO from them a few weeks ago as well.
Absolutely, congratulations to nCino. Hats off to them, and we're delighted with their ongoing success. We've got a really strong relationship with both of those parties. So we actually worked within BNorth on the world's first seamless integration of their platforms. So that's where effectively BNorth team plus developers from nCino and Mambu worked in productizing that integration. So it gives us a great start. We've got a fully integrated platform that allows our colleagues to work on a location agnostic basis with one sort of single point of entry and store for information. And it gives us great advantages now out of the box in terms of being able to drive transformational customer journeys through our business. So I mentioned the time to cash, the time it takes to complete a secured loan facility with your bank. Currently, that's probably around 3 or 4 months. It's a really high friction, tortuous process. And our aim is to compress that by a factor of 10 and bring that down to a couple of weeks. And nCino and Mambu are a core part of enabling us to deliver that and deliver a very sort of agile customer experience through our technology platform. But I think they're also very scalable and very future-proof, and that's one of the key advantages that endure for a business like BNorth over the coming months and years as well. So you mentioned sort of the ability to adapt to new technology. That's absolutely critical, and we can work with new partners for either Fintech or RegTech or other sort of technology capabilities, and really sort of wire them in quite seamlessly into that core Mambu nCino platform. And it gives us a real sort of medium long-term defensibility as well. So new technology is coming down the stream all the time. We want to be able to embrace that, not as at the bleeding edge, but at the leading edge, so that we can continue to innovate and transform the customer experience. And being cloud native, reliant on a SaaS model, gives us that infinite scalability and flexibility.
Absolutely. The other, I've heard several horror stories, never firsthand, but myself, around technology being brought in and just not being developed and used effectively. By obviously having something like Mambu that's obviously cloud native. What's the opportunities with things like various sandboxes on there to go, do you know what, let's try this thing here. Oh, this is phenomenal. We can actually use this well. Or do you know what, this actually is probably not the best thing for us. What's been your approach to that kind of sort of trial and error in the sandbox?
Yeah, it's a very quick test and learn format, a very safe one as well. So that's worked very well for us. It allows us to test offline and try new things offline. It's particularly important, Ali, as we grow. So as the business sort of launches and scales up and scales up its lending activities, it means that we can continue to innovate, but not do that with necessarily with live clients. In fact, our model will work really well for a constant sort of process of innovation. So we have the sort of offline sandbox approach, which is absolutely sort of isolated to our technology team. But then when we've got something that we really like and we want to sort of road test in a live environment, then our regional model lends itself very well to that. So we don't have to switch the whole business on. We can switch very discrete parts of that business on to live testing as well. And it gives us a real sort of edge in that rapid innovation space that is so important for technology-enabled businesses, to enable people like us, businesses like us, to stay ahead. Because we're looking forward all of the time. We see really exciting innovations, all of which are designed to benefit our borrowers, the customers at the end of the day, but they make our life easier as well. Technology enables us to manage a regionally distributed business in a wholly different way, and that's something that's exciting. Sandboxes play a really important part in that.
Brilliant. So I mean, you've got that. I think the approach to the ratio between people and technology. I can see that culture there. You've got phenomenal tech stack that's also flexible. So with that in mind, in terms of the people and the tech, what are you bringing to the SME ecosystem? What are you bringing that's going to make everybody else sit up and go, these guys are now here. We have to up our own game.
Yeah, so great question, and that's down to us to constantly innovate. But we're here to transform the lending market for more established SMEs. So not necessarily for those microfinance businesses, the smaller businesses, but actually for the core heartland of the SME marketplace, which is scale-ups and slightly more complex established businesses. We're here to disrupt that lending market with a transformational delivery, and I mentioned 10 times quicker. They have a very high friction, impersonal experience currently, and we want to remove that friction and increase the level of expectation amongst borrowers. And that's part of why we want to deliver at 10 times quicker than the competition. And that's not delivering and taking excess or increased risk. It's actually just having a focus on a market that enables us to constantly innovate and deliver something more efficiently and more effectively than the competition can ever dream of. And you've got to remember, we've got an advantage in that a lot of our competitors are the big incumbents who do have legacy challenges in terms of not only technology and systems, but also processes and mindset. And a lot of processes are very highly centralized in almost all existing large banks. That puts lending decisions further away from the borrower and means that everything passes through very clear, discrete silos, which slows down the process. Technology enables us to deliver a transaction in a very agile way. So we don't have to wait for one thing to complete before starting the next thing. We can in an agile way kick off legal documentation whilst we're doing the credit underwriting decision, whilst we're valuing collateral. It's agile delivery that gets us to that endpoint much more quickly in a much more customer-centric manner. I think also the broker channel in the UK is particularly important. This is one that's grown in scale significantly over the last 10 years, has doubled, the number of brokers has doubled. And we see that channel as a really exciting route to market for us. We've got great relationships with the industry bodies in that segment. And they're not necessarily strategically embraced as part of the core proposition of many banks. For us, we see them as a really exciting route to borrowers and a really sort of engaging channel for origination. So we've got a transformational proposition for that broker segment, which we're really excited about. In fact, some brokers invested in our seed capital raise in 2018 and have helped us to build and design a match-winning proposition for that channel, which is a really important one.
It does seem like, for example, looking at the way brokers are in mortgages on the retail side, they're accepted, they're established, they're kind of they're a part of the club. It almost seems on the SME side they're overlooked a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a natural tension between the banks that have big distribution teams, big origination teams. If I run a bank, I don't want to pay a big team and then for them to pay brokers as well. It presents a natural conflict. For us, we see a real opportunity to partner with that channel on an enduring strategic basis. So if we accept that they're going to be a permanent part of our origination model, that takes away that conflict. It means that our origination teams are very efficient. We have a very efficient, scalable regional model. And partnering with brokers just gives us that reach and that extension of our origination capability on a completely variabilized basis, but gives us that sort of very quick route to greater coverage than our relatively humble origination team would deserve. But it also helps transform the cost dynamics of running the business as well. So it means that our cost income ratio is less than half at maturity of the UK banking sector average. And that's a really powerful sort of long-term tool, which means that I think there will be sort of a long-term shift in relationships and in approach to this market. And we want to be part of that future.
Absolutely. Oh, we got to talk about COVID. You guys in the cloud, what has it meant for you in terms, obviously internally, your current workflow, but also in the way that you've realized customers are now behaving very differently? These are kind of the people that the opportunity is there, and these are the people the opportunity is no longer there.
Yeah, so technology is helpful, isn't it? So we already had market-leading collaboration tools within our business, so that's enabled us to keep the pace up in terms of both the build activity, but also how we've worked with third parties who are supporting us on our journey. So I would say it's been a pretty seamless transition for us into lockdown and the sort of semi-lockdown period that we remain.
The sort of no man's land that we're in now.
Yeah, absolutely. This strange place we occupy. Having said that, look, I think it's played out very differently in the external marketplace. So we've had sort of government schemes, unprecedented government schemes supporting the SME segment with bounce back loans and C-bills, but they've provided a sort of a short-term fillip in terms of supply, which has been helpful for SMEs. But in the medium term, that sort of normal liquidity track needs to be re-established. And what we've seen recently is a lot of the large incumbent banks have been distracted by having to deliver C-bills, but also by having to support existing lent business through a period of challenge. And that's really distracted them from new to bank front book growth relationships. We've seen a number of the fund type lenders, so non-bank licensed lenders, having to withdraw some of the offers that they've had in the market because the markets that they rely on to fund their businesses have dried.
Yeah. C-bills and the bounce back have absolutely killed those markets over the last couple of months.
Yeah, so we'll get back to a new normal at some point, but I think the new normal needs banks that don't have legacy and can actually look forward with a clean balance sheet and really support the recovery of the UK economy. And I see BNorth playing a really exciting part in that recovery. We're not held back by portfolio challenge. We've got a completely differentiated view of the market and how we deliver into that market, which is very borrower-centric indeed. And so it enables us to play our part in supporting the recovery of the UK SME segment, which is critical. And currently there's a real risk that there isn't sufficient liquidity in the banking market to support the number of SMEs that will want to scale up. And we're going to be there. We want to be there to support scale up businesses and be that sort of source of banking liquidity at a really critical time for the UK economy as it looks to recover.
Excellent. The last thing I've got to ask, and I love asking this. So, Atom Bank, obviously, you know, will.i.am, Klarna has Snoop Dogg. Who's the pop culture icon for BNorth? Who do you think mostly kind of sort of personifies what you guys are all about?
What a question. And look, I'm going to have a think about that. That's a brilliant question, Ali. Look, what I would say is we're sort of are we pop culture, or are we sort of a slightly more a blend of the traditional and the modern?
Obviously, with B North, the Gallaghers.
But it would be wrong for me to sort of completely categorize us by one genre. But Oasis is a great example of the sort of the traditional rock taking over the world. I know it's a '90s reference, so we're probably a bit more modern than that. But hey, look, they're constantly re-envisioning themselves and reinventing themselves. So let's go with that. We're not the sort of shiny sort of rap culture, but we're not sort of too old school either. So something a bit edgy, something a bit more interesting and exciting, but someone who's taking a completely new take on a very old model. That's what we are.
Absolutely, and there's obviously that northern spirit there as well.
Yeah, that's authentic, and look, that's quite important to us. So it's sort of it's not a flippant reference. It's actually most banks look at the UK with a London lens, and most UK banks are managed outside of London, and that gives them one view of the UK, and that you'll have heard the levelling up agenda that's currently sort of on vogue in the government is an important one. It's not just a fashion; it's actually something that's critical for UK PLC to have a more balanced regional economy. And our model is completely regionally focused, very authentically regionally focused as well. And we see the UK regions as a key part of our model. We've got a proposition that is based in the UK regions and lending to businesses based in regions. So that gives us authenticity that we think others often lack and others miss.
Boom. Excellent, excellent. Very well said. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Where is the best place to connect with you? Where's the best place to find out more about B North?
Yeah, so we're on lots of channels as you would expect. Obviously, our website b-north.co.uk, but follow us on LinkedIn. There's a lot of our activity on that. We're also on Twitter and Instagram as well. But go to the website and the LinkedIn page first. They're great places to find out more and especially to follow the journey.
Brilliant, excellent. Thanks very much, JT.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ali.